right, y'all, we are here for a bulk recap. We're gonna have episode 3, 4, 5, and maybe 6 all in this video right here. Yeah, I got some thoughts. Anna's not the only person that left, but we're gonna get into it. But if you're new here, hit subscribe. Do it right now, free of charge. I'm gonna be here all season. I'm trying to crank these out as quickly as possible because we know the drop of 789 is coming tomorrow. So I'm trying to at least get these done so that I can get to that probably Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and have it out by the end of the weekend. But thumbs up the video. Do that real quick. Free of charge helps so much with pushing me out into the algorithm to bring more people to us so we can have more conversations. Let me know y'all's thoughts down below on the episodes in this one. Leave the spoilers out. But yeah, let's get into it. Let's go. All right, so we come back to where we left off, which was Patrick getting ghosted by Anna because we know she's gone. He didn't know yet, but he heads back into headquarters, and then we find out there that Anna has officially left and went home, which I have mixed feelings about this because I feel like personally, because I feel like she was running because she was feeling herself falling. Which, I mean, I understand that, and I feel like she probably was scared. But my whole thing is, if you knew that this shit was going to scare you, you shouldn't have come. Not only that, I feel like you allowed those other men to get their feelings involved. And then to leave without telling them why, I ain't like that. I ain't like that at all, honestly. But she left, and that's what happened. But Megan, she's having her conversation with Blake. And she's talking about how she essentially was going to write him off. Like, she didn't tell him that, but she's telling us this, that she was essentially going to write him off, but he surprised her in their conversation that they had today. And then she heads back into the pods to go talk to him. And just like Patrick, he's not there. Blake left, which lets me know Blake, his number one was Anna. Because it's like, damn, that's another person that done left. Megan's in there like, hello. She's doing the same thing Patrick did. But she goes back in and tells Casey that he was her number one. I was like, ugh. And I think that's what I was pretty much alluding to earlier. I felt like her two strongest connections was him and Mike. And I did feel like, and I said too, I feel like her and Mike make a lot of sense. Like, just from like what she expects from a lifestyle perspective and just like a mentality perspective, which is crazy because she talks about it later on, how he reminds her of her exes. But I felt like Blake gave her a little bit more. I felt like he gave her that security as well, a little bit more than what she was expecting. Because I feel like I feel like she needs to tap more into like her fun side. I feel like she's a little bit upright. And I feel like Blake was helping her get into that, which I found interesting, but we'll get to it. But Madison and Joe, they have their first meeting. As we all know from the last episode, he proposed, she accepted it. He tells her that she's gorgeous. They kiss. She's surprised. He tells us that she didn't look like the person that he thought that she would look like, which, looking at how he's acting in the confessionals, I'm trying to dictate and trying to get a depiction on if he's actually satisfied with what he's seeing. Because, like, he seems speechless in his confessionals talking about it. And I still couldn't figure out if it was a good speechless or a bad one. But in real time, it seems like it was good. She asked him if he's happy, if he's attracted to her. And he says that he is. From that confessional, I can't really tell you if he is or not. But she also states that she could feel his nervous energy whenever they were there, obviously, because that's the first time y'all are meeting each other. But he had proposed to her for real this time, in real time as well, and of course she accepts it. So we then move to Annie. Annie's telling us that she really likes Nick, but Brendan is her number one, which that was clear. But her and Brendan, they talk again, and she's pretty much telling him that she can see herself with him. He says that he loves that. She's basically wanting a little bit more from him with that response. And he's like, I'm confirming it to you. Like, I feel the same way. She said, are you? Like, do you really? And he's like, yeah, I just told you yes. And she's like, oh, that seems like it's frustrating, like a frustrating response. And it's like, I can see why he feels that way. But then again, I can see why she wants more from him. Like, she's basically like telling him, like, you really are the one for me. I want to hear you stating in other words besides stating, yeah, I feel the same. Which we'll get to that because that happened in another conversation. But she ends up asking if he's affectionate, and he's like, yeah, it's not just sex. Like, I'm the type that'll come up to you. If I see you, I'm gonna come hug you. I'm gonna come kiss you. I'll leave you notes and stuff. I'm very affectionate on that end. So it is what it is. And she tells him that she's super affectionate as well. She says she likes being super close with her person at all times. At all times. And she said she doesn't want to have to ask for affection. And when she's stating all of this, and you could tell he's taking it in, he's kind of looking at, okay, she seems like she might be kind of clingy, which is what I got. Honestly, when she said that, I mean, it's okay to be super affectionate, but the way that she made it seem like she's super clingy. Super clingy. I could be reading it wrong, but that's what I got from it. But he ends up asking, like, is she super obsessive over her person? Which I feel like that's what led him to asking that question, because he kind of got that same vibe that I did. And she's like, yes, she is, but in a good way. He starts laughing, and I'm like, he's laughing because he knows she probably is a little bit too obsessive. But she then asked him, and he said he feels the same. And he feels like he is. She's just a little bit more than him. And he picked up what I was catching too, which was crazy. But Annie then moves to her conversation with Nick. They're talking about sex. Like, the first part of their conversation is about sex. She tells him that he makes her feel comfortable. He tells her that he has like puppy dog energy, but when shit gets serious, he'll be her man. I said, that's not the energy that you gave in the previous conversation. Like, basically what he just told her is pretty much negating what he talked about in the previous one. The previous one, he talked about how he didn't want to be strong all the time and didn't want to feel like he's Superman or whatever, but that's basically what you stating here. So I'm like, which one is he? But she tells him that she gets chills hearing him state that. I said, oh, so you giving desperate. That's what it gave me. Like, him telling her one thing that she wanted to hear, she ate it up. And you could tell she's only doing this because she probably felt a little bit of apprehension from Brendan from that last conversation. So you could tell it's forced if you're asking me. But Nick, he's having his conversation with Katie, and this was forced on his end if you're asking me. But she then tells him that she loves spending time with him. They're calling each other pet names and whatever. And he then tells her that he's so confident in their connection. She's telling him that she loves that about their relationship, is how secure and confident they are within each other. You can tell she feels that genuinely. I feel like he is forcing it. He tells her that he loves her. That was, in my opinion, felt forced. He's like, I'm in love with your soul. I'm like, this is very strategic. She then says she's speechless and she's not surprised, and that's kind of romantic to her. She then tells him as well that he's given her nothing to question, and she absolutely has been falling hard for him. She has not told him, I love you or I'm falling in love with you. I'm glad she didn't do that, because I feel like you should only say that shit if you really feel it. And you could tell she's getting to that point, but she doesn't fully feel that, and she didn't feel pressured to do it because he said it. Even though I personally feel like he just said it because he's trying to strategically get her to lock in with him. But he then tells her to pretty much take it at her own pace. He felt that she was not really saying it in that moment, even though he probably wanted to hear it. And he was like, I just don't want you to feel like you have to reciprocate everything that I'm saying. Next, Edmund. He's jumping through the hall. To go see Calabria. So he gets in there with her. He tells her about him sprinting and whatever. And they start talking about working out together. She then moves to asking pretty much like, if times are hard and I might not be strong enough to handle all of these things, will you be able to allow me to kind of let my guard down, be in my soft girl era, and will you be able to handle it? He says that he will, and he has no doubts. He then tells her that he prayed for somebody like her. She then proceeds to read him these notes that she had wrote down about him pretty much professing her love to him. And she wraps it up telling him that she's in love with him and that she loves him. I think that's what she said. But he just says he loves her too and thanks her. What I told y'all in the past two recaps is still consistent here. She's driving home every conversation. She's the one like in control. I want her to let herself kind of sit back and let him drive the conversation, because I feel like there's no real substance when it comes to Edmund. I feel like she needs to allow him to really start talking more and steering the conversation, really showing emotional intelligence, which I don't feel like we've seen it so far. I feel like she definitely has it. I just don't feel like we've seen it from him, which is I feel like that's a red flag. Because I feel like she hasn't really given him the chance. I don't want to say she hasn't given him the chance, because she definitely has, but she's steering the conversation, and I want him to be able to be in that same position that she's been in, and I just don't see it. I don't see it, but he gets on one knee, and this is what I'm talking about with the emotional intelligence. He gets on one knee, and this is his proposal. Can you pretty please marry me? Pretty please, pretty please. I said, you ain't got nothing else to say? Like, y'all done been having these conversations, and you ain't got nothing that you want to tell her about how she makes you feel besides pretty please marry me. That sounds like a child. But she obviously says yes because she's feeling it with him. He starts hollering. I said, I hope she's picking up on these signs. Like the lack of emotional depth, that's crazy to me. But we then get back to Patrick, who's in the men's headquarters, and he's talking about like feeling hurt, but now he's thinking about his connection with Casey, who was his number 2. As we all know, Anna was his number 1. So he wants to run through a couple more days with Casey to kind of figure out, okay, if this is going to actually work or if I need to go home. But he's now feeling comfortable hearing her talk more about like how open her family is about interracial dating. I feel like in this moment, I felt like he was trying to force himself to believe it, but we'll get to it because if he felt more comfortable, this conversation that they're about to have would have been a lot more easy for him to have, which it wasn't. So that's how I know that it was forced. But him and Casey, they end up having another conversation and she talks about like never being the girl that guys liked in school. I immediately wrote, I feel like this is forced. Because his energy was a lot more high. Like you could tell he's trying to like force himself to be more open, more present with her when it's not natural. Because he just doesn't feel comfortable with her. And that's clear. Like, and if you don't feel comfortable with that person that you claim that you're in love with, it's not going to work. He's trying to force himself to feel comfortable around her when he's not. But she then asks if he likes her. And he says that he does. She tells him that she's a girl that just needs a lot of reassurance and she's unsure of how he feels about her. He tells her, like, I really do like you. Like, I do like you. I feel like we just got to go through a couple more days within these conversations. And she's like, yeah, I know. It's just scary not knowing how your other connections are. And he tells her that he cut off a connection. I said, you didn't cut off that connection. Anna cut that connection off. She cut you off. But she then asks him, like, what's he's most worried about with her. He says his only concern is, long pause, she's over there reacting because you could tell she already feels like she knows what he's trying to say or at least wants to say, but he doesn't. He can't get it out. He said he doesn't know how to say it. She says you can just say it. He says he's not 100% certain on how bad she wants it. And I'm like, how bad she wants the relationship with you or the experience. But she then asks, like, what makes you question it? And he says that he questions her passion. But he saw a lot of that today, and he then asked her, like, how bad do you really want it? She says, like, I mean, if I didn't want it, I'd have walked out 2 days ago. He was like, oh, so you was questioning leaving? And she's like, yeah, I mean, like, I'm not going to bullshit you to stay on the show. She says that she feels like she keeps thinking it would be easy for her to just get her phone and leave. And she's like, I mean, if it wasn't for this connection, I probably would have left. I do believe her. I do believe her there. I do. I feel like she ain't got no other connection. So that's that's what I feel. But she then says that a lot of guys have taken advantage of her heart. She doesn't want to be heartbroken. And maybe this is what she needed to change, which is basically coming in here, falling in love blind. But he then tells her again that he really likes her and wants to find the perfect match. She echoes the same. I honestly don't see it between these two, but we'll see. But Jordan, he's talking to Mike in the headquarters about Megan without stating that he's talking about Megan. But Mike knows who he's talking about. Just from the signs, just from what he's talking about, he knows exactly that he's talking about Megan. But Jordan goes in there to talk to Megan. She's slow to get in there. He's like, uh-oh, is she ghosting me? But no, she's in there. But she tells him that Blake has stood her up. And he's like, that's crazy. She asks, like, so what happened? Like, obviously she knows they've been in there together. Like, why did he leave? He was like, he just left. But that's his loss. But she then starts telling him about Anna leaving as well. But he then tells her that their last date that they had together, him and Megan, was the best one that he's had in a while. He starts talking about wanting a relationship that's healthy because he's never really had that. He says his son's mother, their relationship wasn't that good. They weren't compatible. It seems like they might have been arguing or whatever. But he then asked her how she feels about him being 29 years old. And she says it's not an issue. I don't know if I believe her. I don't. But she then says that she's just worried about maturity, which is why I feel like I don't believe her. And I do believe that it's a valid concern. Like, we all know men mature a lot slower than women. She's 33 years old, and you could tell she's really up there in terms of mental and maturity. You could tell she's a lot higher than he is. Even with a kid, I feel like he's still, I don't want to say he's immature. I just feel like he's immature in a way, not completely. But I just feel like I don't see these two working. Like, I saw it with her and Blake. And if we're choosing between Jordan and Mike, I feel like Mike is the better option for her, but we'll see. But she was like, she just needs to know that he's ready for that level of commitment that she needs. But she reassures him that she sees something in him. But Megan then goes in for her chat with Mike. He fake ghosts her as a joke. But he's laughing with her about pretty much hearing that she had gotten ghosted. And he tells her that he knows too much right now. Like, he's pretty much alluding to her. I know a little bit about what's going on with your other connections. So he then asks her where she's at with him. She's like, I mean, you definitely up there for me. And he starts laughing, saying you only got 2 guys left. Basically letting her know, I know what you got going on. So she starts laughing. And she tells him, like, you're trouble. And he's like, I think you got a couple guys that are trouble. And you're dating 2 in here that are trouble. I was like, oh, what you trying to do? And she's like, what? So she didn't ask, like, if he knows who she's dating. And he says, I just know you like trouble. Her reaction, you can tell she's starting to get a little nervous. But she then is like, I think you know who it is. He says, I just want to know if you're going to be honest. I already know. And she then tells him Jordan is her other connection. He's like, there you go. Look at us building trust. So she then asks, like, how did he know that it was him? He said it was obvious. Like, I didn't want to say anything, but I mean, I just didn't want to mess around. But she then tells him that he reminds her a lot of her exes, which is why it's so nerve-wracking, which is why you can tell she has a little bit of apprehension with him, is because obviously those didn't work out. So he then asks her, like, what makes me remind you of your exes? And she says, like, I mean, I feel like we're each other's types. And I feel like my purpose being here is to kind of take that out of the equation. Basically, try something completely different. And as she's saying that, she's getting emotional. And he's like, I mean, that's fair. And she was like, I mean, it's just scary. So he then promises, like, I'm not like them. I don't know them. I'm not like them. He said, I want you to still have that fire and attraction that you had with your exes, obviously, because you were physically attracted to them. You had those attractions. And if you see that in me, that is a good thing. But I want you to know, too, I'm not exactly like that. It's not going to be all negatives. Like, you still can avoid the negatives while still having commonalities that you had with your exes, which is not wrong. But he then says, like, I'm not perfect, even though I criticize myself and know that there's things that I can do better, which is normal. Like, we all know we're not perfect, but we all know there's certain things that we could do better. And we harp on those things a little bit because, I mean, that's a part of growing. But he was like, but with her, he feels like they have similar ambitions, backgrounds, and essentially they can be like a power couple. And he then says, like, this was the kick in the ass that he needed. Basically, seeing that she's got other connections outside of himself makes him realize that he needs to lock in fully on her and really kind of like let her know, I want you. So he then tells her that he just doesn't want to pour his heart out and look like an idiot. Of course, nobody does. But she then states that she needs time. But we end this episode with Edmund and Calabria's first meeting on a cliffhanger. This is what I've been waiting for. I've been waiting for this because I want to see her reaction to him. Because he's probably going to start acting the same way he did throughout this entire journey. She just couldn't see it. I want to see how she reacts to how he is. Because I feel like that's going to say a lot. But stay with me because we're about to get into episode 4. Like the video if you haven't already. Do that right now. Y'all, it's a lot of manipulation and a lot of stupid desperation going on here. This episode, I had to get this one out. I was gonna do this one as a 3, 4, 5, 6 type of deal, but we got to get 3 and 4 out, especially because of 4. But if y'all haven't already, like I said earlier, subscribe, thumbs up the video, get in the comments. Let's roll. Let's go. All right, so we pick up where we left off, which was Edmund and Calabria, their first meeting. She sees him. She's excited. She says he's handsome. He's sitting there being his goofy self. She tells him that she loves him. He's her chocolate queen. She was like, she ain't know what to expect. That's basically what she's telling us. They start kissing. He starts crying. She starts hugging him. He starts flexing and stuff, being the goofy child that he is. But she then tells him, like, don't you have something to ask me, aka propose again. I was waiting on him to give a more elaborate speech than what he did in Empires, but no, he got on one knee and pretty much just asked her to marry him. And she says yes. I'm like, but he then goes sprinting off to go get her something, which is the letter. He's got good front side mechanics. They teach you that in track, like to have nothing behind him. And he had nothing behind him. The knees was high up in the air. The face she made when she watched him running off like that, I said, hopefully she's getting the ick, but no, it didn't seem like it in the moment. But he comes back with the letter telling her pretty much everything about her outer beauty. Like, it was nothing about how she makes him feel, what he loves about her as a person. It's just talking about how beautiful she is. And I'm like, interesting. Interesting. But she then says that she would have walked by him in the real world, but none of it matters now. And she then reads the love letter. No, he didn't tell her the love letter. He was pretty much stating all. He's stating what he's feeling in front of her, but everything he's stating is about her outer beauty. The love letter pretty much says what he should have said in that moment. But Nick and Kate, they have another conversation. Nick, I'm glad I was right. I knew I was right about him. Something ain't right with him. Something's not right with him. Kate dodged a bullet, thank God, but we'll get to it. Annie, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. But Nick and Kate, he tells us that she's the one that he likes the most, and he's gonna fight for her. Remember, he said, "I'm gonna fight for her." She then asks him, like, "How do you handle conflict?" And he's like, "I mean, good arguments are healthy sometimes." He likes argument sex. What he said with arguments being good sometimes, I do believe that, and that's just not even just within a romantic relationship. I feel like when I say arguments, I don't want to say like heated debates, but like I feel like disagreements and I feel like disagreements are needed in relationships. And when I say that, it helps you build character within your relationship, because if y'all don't agree with something, depending on what it is, y'all should be able to build a bridge, get to it, and then get over it together. So stuff like that builds character in a relationship as well. So I do feel like that is true. But he then starts talking about how his dad had pretty much taught him about conflict resolution. So she then starts asking, like, if his parents are still together. They are. They've been together for 30 years. We know that her mom has passed. She then talks about being spiritual. Remember this, because I had to go back and rewatch it too to make sure I wasn't tripping. She said to him, "I'm spiritual, but I'm not against religion." She said that. He then says that he's a person, he's a quiet person and has a quiet, not a quiet person. He has a quiet relationship with God. Again, remember, she said, "I am spiritual. I'm not against religion." Remember that. But she then gets emotional talking about her mom passing and her brother pretty much asking, like, how could there be a God considering everything that has happened? And I feel like that is something that a lot of people do question in moments of just hard times. Like when somebody leaves the earth, that's a big testament of your faith. I've lost somebody really close to me, but I haven't gotten to that point where I've questioned it. Like I'm very in tune with my religion. I'm a believer of God. I'm a believer of Christ, but I haven't gotten to that point yet. But I've experienced other people and I've been around other people who have questioned their faith. And whenever certain things like that happen, it's a true testament of how much you really believe in your faith. But so what she's stating, I mean, it's normal to hear that. But she then states that her mom had colon cancer, had tumors everywhere, popping all out. I was like, damn. I could only imagine how hard that was watching it. But she then says, like, sometimes she struggles talking about her feelings, so she feels good being able to do that with him. And she then says as well, he told her that he loved her. And it's not that she doesn't want to say it back. She just basically wants to say it when she feels it, which is what she should do. Like, she's not fake. Like, she's not love bombing him, but we'll get to it. But we then see Nick with Annie, who is desperate as fuck, but we'll get to her. But she then says that today she needed more validation, and she mentions her other connection. Obviously, that's with Brendan. She doesn't tell him that, though. But she's trying to figure out his little bit of hesitation. He then says he's trying to wrap his mind around multiple connections. He only got 2. But he then says that he hopes that him wanting to talk to her is reassuring. I said, yet you told another woman that you loved her, yet you want to still talk to her. That makes no sense. That makes no sense. If you really love one woman and say that you're in love with her, you shouldn't want to talk to another woman. So that's red flag number 1. But she then talks about her trust issues with men who have cheated on her with over 20 girls. Makes sense. But he then says that he's never cheated, which I don't believe. I don't believe that at all. He says he's an open book. And he said that she will find some weird conversations with his boys talking about his dick being curly. I said, I don't talk to my boys like that. And I don't know any straight men that would talk to their boys about their dick curling. Red flag number 2. But they start talking about pretty much wanting their kids to grow up Christian, which I find interesting because I believe he stated that he didn't even talk to her about it later. We'll get to it. But they both got spanked growing up. I did as well. Discipline. And when I say spanked, there's a difference. In my opinion, I feel like there's a difference between spanking and beating your child. I got spanked when I did things wrong. And I feel like it made me do better. Like, I didn't want to get whooped, but I got whooped. But my parents weren't beating me. They weren't abusing me. I feel like there's a difference between that. But they both want to be strict but nice parents. But he then asked her how would she feel if her child had told her that they were LGBT plus. And she says no matter what, she would love the child, but clearly she states too, like she wouldn't immediately be like, yay. I feel like that's a natural reaction. I do. But as long as you love your child at the end of the day, that's all that matters. You need to support your child. That's your child. You brought your child onto this earth. You should love them for whoever they are, whatever they want to be. But he then says that when kids start thinking that too young, it's concerning because he'd be wondering like who's talking to them about that. But he then starts talking about being depressed one time in high school, and pretty much he went around, like it took him forever to get to the point, but he pretty much talks about how his mom pretty much asked him if he was gay one time and he was like no. And he then says that he was going through something with his girlfriend at the time, but he didn't know what made his mom get to the point of even asking him that, but it made her laugh. And I was like, what was it? Because what do you mean you didn't? It's like there's some, she ain't just gonna come up to you and ask you that. Like I feel like she had to have seen something that made her want to ask him that. But he didn't pretty much elaborate on it. I felt like he was hiding the true story, but I'm like, whatever. But he then says that he felt embarrassed for weeks and felt like he had to bring a girl home, kiss her in front of them to make them believe that he wasn't gay. I'm like, okay. But he then moves to talking about being ready for getting married. And she says she is as well, but she was deep in thought. Like whenever he just talked about that whole gay story, you could tell she was thinking. And considering what she stated to the first question, I was like, But he then tells her that he can see himself proposing to her. I was like, after you literally just told the other girl that you was in love with her body language, again, like she just seemed like she wasn't feeling it in this moment for this particular conversation. But she then stated that she needed that because she was wondering if he's been saying that to everybody. He literally has said the same stuff that he's saying to you to Kate. But he then says that no, he doesn't do that. He wants to give her that reassurance that he wants to fight for her. I said, this man is crazy. I said a true manipulating scammer. He said that same shit to Kate. I said, here we go. We found the one for the season. I was like, what? But we then moved to Brendan and Annie. Brendan and Kate, y'all don't realize it now, but y'all dodging bullets. Y'all dodging bullets. They too good for these two. But he then asked her, like, have you envisioned us in the real world? She states that she has. He ends up asking her to elaborate. She starts elaborating on it. They start talking about their cars and whatnot. And he didn't realize that she had already told him about what car she had driven. And she was like, I mean, we already talked about it. And you could tell she was kind of feeling some type of way about it. So he then talks about how he pretty much had thought that there was a possibility of her not choosing him. And she's stating like, yeah, I really like you. I just want to make sure that I know who you are. And him not remembering the car, you could tell she's still like on that. I'm like, I feel like it was nerves, honestly. Like it's clear when he came into this conversation, he was really trying to like lay it on thick and really let her know how he really feels about her. And it's just like a lot of apprehension on her end. But he then tells her that he is very sure about them. He makes it very clear. She starts crying. She says, like, if you feel so sure, why are you asking me? And she says, I mean, I need you to really tell me what our life will be like. So he just starts talking about like traveling and stuff, chilling. Like he seems like a chill dude. Like he seems like the type that'll like go out on a date, but then want to go home and chill the next day, which is not a problem. Like you don't always have to be outside. But she then asked like how he's feeling about her. Like he didn't just already tell you. He says, I'm all about you. He says this, I'm all about you. She says, that's what I was looking for. Remember that. Remember that. Remember it. We then move to Casey and Patrick. Also another cycle. I'm like, here we go. The crazies came out this episode. And I'm talking about Casey. Patrick, you desperate. Like, it's crazy and desperate. The only one that wasn't desperate, truthfully, was Kate. Shout out to her. Brendan, I don't want to call him desperate, but you could tell he actually really feels. We'll get to it. But Casey, she starts talking about how when she was dating another dude, a reality show had pretty much reached out to her asking to do the show, and it was a dating show, and her ex had pretty much encouraged it. Before we get into this, she was having a conversation with Calabria about her ex, like in depth. I'm like, why are you still talking about this man? And then she brings him into the conversation here too, unprovoked. But Patrick then says, like, what a weirdo thing for him to do, wanting you to go on a dating reality show when y'all were together. I said, it's exactly. But she says that she could have done it. And she says that was important for him, for her to pretty much do it to set up her career. And she said she didn't leave him when he told her to do it. So Patrick then asked, like, what was going through your mind whenever he asked you that? And she was like, I mean, I would have left. I should have left him many times, but he told me that I should go do that show because it could change my life, and he'll be there for me when I come back. I was like, Patrick then asked the question that I was at. I was sitting there thinking to myself. He said, "So if did you do the same thing when it came to this show coming on Love Is Blind?" I said, "Exactly." She says, "Yes," or she. He asked if he did the same thing in reference to Love Is Blind, pretty much stating like go on the show, and she says yes. He says interesting. I said that is interesting because why are you still talking to him? Why does he know that you're going on Love Is Blind when he's your ex? The same ex as she started off the season on episode 1 talking about how he made her feel all these types of ways about herself. I'm like, why are you still talking to him? But that just proves that she don't love herself. But she then says that he doesn't think that it's gonna work, talking about her being on the show. And she says he's gonna be very wrong. I said, run, Patrick, run, red flag. But she then says, like, if we get engaged, I won't care to tell him. I said, why would you tell him? Why is it any of his business? That's not your boyfriend. That's your ex. So why would you go tell him? That's because you want to be with him. Because you're doing what he wants you to do. That's really what it is if you asking me. But he then tells her that he appreciates it and she can do whatever she wants. I said, sir, so you gonna let her just talk to her ex if y'all was together? That's crazy. But he then says that he ended everything before coming here and he doesn't have a backup plan. She felt hit because she does have a backup plan. She says, I didn't come on here with a backup plan either. I said, that's bullshit. But she then asks if he's concerned about her commitment to him. He should be. He then is slow to answer yet again. And she was like, I mean, I guess that's a yes. Yeah, it is. And he says, maybe a little bit. And she asks why. I said, what do you mean why? Everything you just said is the reason as to why he should be concerned. Like, what? But she then says, like, if you want me to block him and not tell him, I can. I said, why would you even need permission to block somebody you're not with? It's somebody that made you feel like shit. Why are you still talking? And then I'm like, that's the problem. She don't love herself. She's still engaging and thinking about a man that made her feel like shit while she's supposedly trying to get into it with new people. Crazy. But she then tells him that he should maybe lighten up on her because she really likes him. I said, the audacity of you. The audacity, lighten up on you. I would run if I was Patrick. But she then says that she wants, and he's not going to run because he don't have any other options. He's so desperate to find somebody that he's going to go with the wrong choice. He should have went with Anna, but he didn't get the chance to get with Anna, even though he was wanting to, but keep that in mind. But she then says that she wants him to love her, but she doesn't know if she can fully do it until she touches him. I said, oh. I said, so you just don't know if you're physically attracted to him. You want to know for sure if you're physically attracted to him before you get to that point. But those are the same insecurities that you had because your ex was comparing you to every other blind that looked better than you. I said, crazy, crazy. But the craziest part about it is, though, they start having pod sex. She starts talking about all these things she going to do to him. She going to be fucking him and this. And I said, what is going on? But she starts talking all her horny thoughts to him. He's enjoying it, obviously. I said crazy. But we then move to Mike and Megan. He pretty much reads her what he wrote down. They start talking about sex life too at first, but I was like, thank God they didn't keep going on that. But he then talks about what he really wrote down, which is to pretty much be chill and be himself. As we all know, he now knows who she's dealing with. And basically, you could tell he's trying to find a way to lock in on her and get her to lock in on him. But he then asks, like, is she ready to get married? She says that she is. And she starts talking about how one of her exes was almost a billionaire, but life was so shitty because he worked nonstop. He pretty much used his money to pretty much express love to her through gifts and stuff. She said, like, they would go to dinner, they would have sex, and then it would just repeat. He would get up the next day, go to work, and then they would just do it all over again, which is just, that's boring. Like, that's not really love. Like, you got to do things that are spontaneous. You got to do things that make your person truly feel that love, and just buying them gifts and stuff like that. That's not thoughtful, truthfully, if you're asking me. But she says that she was miserable, which is what made her go younger. And the dude that she was dating was broke, but she had more fun with him and he just wasn't ready for the commitment. And that's typically what happens. Like, people that don't really have much in life, you tend to probably have a better time with them. Whereas somebody with money, the things that the money can do for you is nice, but 9 times out of 10, if y'all ain't on the same level when it comes to finances, it's, in my opinion, I don't feel like you really can understand it. if that makes sense. But she says she feels like it was necessary for her to realize that through those experiences, which is what made her want to pretty much land in the middle. Like she wants to have the good finances, but also like the stability and the fun that happens with somebody who wouldn't really have it. But he then says that's good to hear. You just missing that one piece of the puzzle, which is him. And she says maybe I found him. Her and Jordan, they start talking about tattoos and whatnot. She talks about how she probably never would have given him the time of day outside in the real world because their paths probably wouldn't have crossed. But she's been laughing all the time, smiling, happy every time that she's leaving out of those conversations, their dates together. And it's surprising her. She gets emotional as she's talking about it. But she then talks about like their similarities with their loved ones pretty much having the issues with diabetes. And she's like, I was wondering if my dad brought you to me because I could help your son as well, because I have experience dealing with somebody who has diabetes, which I mean, it's a good way to look at it, honestly. But she then ends up asking like, if we walk out engaged, how does that work out for Luca, which is his son? So he's like, before we make that decision, I do want his mom to be involved, but I would love Luca to be with us. And she says that she would as well. And he was like, that's the greatest thing to hear. Like, that's top 3 best moments in my life. She was like, wow. But she then says something that tells her that he got BDE. If you don't know, big dick energy. He jokes and says it's the opposite, SDE, small dick energy. But she starts laughing. She's like, as long as you know what to do with it. But Nick, let me pause because I'm going to need it. So this bastard sits down with Kate in their next date. And he's like, you're giving me all the signs of pretty much wanting to propose, but I also see a future with you. And I also see it with somebody else. And I feel like I'm being pulled in different directions. Her face was mine. She was like, you literally just told me 2 days ago that you love me. Like, that's fucked up on your end. And it is. It is. But he then says the fact that I'm having these hesitations doesn't mean that I'm not in love with you. And I just put my cards on the table. I said, you're playing games. Like, what do you mean? So he then says that she was still holding back. I said, she wasn't holding back. You just literally were forcing shit on her. Like, she was moving at a natural pace. You were the one that took it upon yourself to start telling her that you was in love with her, knowing that you wasn't. You was trying to love bomb. But he then says that she should know he's the only person, or that she's the only person that he had said that to. And she was like, I mean, I would hope so. No. But he then says that he feels like she was doubting him on that. And she says, like, you just don't say that you love somebody unless you truly do. And I said, that's the truth. I don't be telling people that I love them when I don't. But she then says, like, I felt like you had said it too fast, or so fast that it felt like love bombing. And that's exactly what it was. I'm like, I'm glad you understand it. But he says that's invalidating my feelings. He's starting to feel hit by it because it's true. She told you the truth about yourself. That's invalidating my feelings and how I felt in the moment. She says love is not in the moment. It's eternal. I said, clock him. Clock him. Because that's the truth. Like, you can't just be in love with her in the moment and then not be. Like, you never were. That's the whole point. You was just sitting there trying to get her to lock in on you so you had a choice. But he then says that it was also when he went to bed that night, he started manipulating her at this point. But then she then tells him she loves that he's ready to share it so easily. And she starts saying sorry because she's getting manipulated at this point. And I'm like, don't you apologize. Don't you do it. But she then states that she's glad that they're talking about it. And he says the same. I said, run, Kate, run. But they start talking about religion. And here we go. This is where he really starts. I'm like, this is a psycho. He's psychotic. But he then asks if she's open to religion. I said, did you not pay attention to the last conversation y'all had? She says, probably not. I've never been a religious person. Like I told you earlier, she stated that she was spiritual. She was not religious. He trips out. Are you serious? You're kidding me. You're kidding me. You told me about your upbringing and the conversations that you had with your sister before your mom passed. And she said, yeah. And I told you that I don't believe a God exists. And I told you that. She literally says she was spiritual. She never said she was religious. He then says, you never said that. You never said never. She said only one could assume. Like, you're grown. She don't have to spell it out for you to realize what she's stating. Like, but you never, she was like, you knew that wasn't me, which, I mean, we all knew it watching the show. But he then says that he didn't know that she never wanted to walk that path. And he says that he has love for her, but doesn't know if that's the love that could get them through this. I said, you bastard. Like, what? I said, then why the fuck would you tell her that you love her? Oh, we know why, because you're literally trying to manipulate her, you scammer. But she's now crying now. And I'm like, dry them tears up. Like, you don't need to be crying because you don't realize you dodging a bullet. But he then says it's fucked because he hasn't talked about love with his other connection and he can't go through with this. I said, fuck you. But she says, what the hell? Like, this isn't what love is. Like, if this is what you claim love is, then I don't want to be with you because love is never turning your back on that person. I said, exactly. But he then apologizes and claims that he got hurt too and this isn't easy. I said, shut the fuck up. He self-sabotaged. Like, he knew exactly what he wanted to do and he did it. But like I told Kate, you dodged a bullet. But Nick and Annie, he then goes in there and talking to her and tells her that he just hurt somebody and it's not easy. And he says that they came at him, talking about Kate. Kate came at him. I said, you lying bastard. Like, I've been calling him a bastard the whole recap. Cause you came at her. Like, what? You gave her weird energy. And of course she's like, what the fuck? Where did this come from? And then you start tripping out on her, pretty much stating that she told you that she was religious when she never said that. But he then tells her that he's here because of her. He's talking to Annie. I'm here because of you, and I know that you're the one. I say, you liar. You just swore up and down that Kate was your number one. She's now your number one because you don't have any other option. But he's telling her that he's choosing her, and he wants her to feel reassured. She's so desperate, she's eating it up. I'm like, you got a better man over there for you with Brendan, but you sitting here eating this up. You eating this up. You match made in hell. Like, these two, when he does her dirty, which I know he's gonna do it, I'm not gonna feel bad for Annie. I'm not. I'm not. But he just randomly tells her that he's in love with her now, love bombing her now. And she then tells him that she loves him. I said, what? That's all he had to say was that. And then she says that she doesn't want to hurt her other connection because it's hard. I said, you about to end a good one for a scammer. But we then see her go talk to Brendan. And he immediately picks up on her energy being different. He notices it. And she's like, I mean, we don't have serious conversations and I just don't feel like we have to. You and Nick never had serious conversations. All he was doing was talking to you very sexually. Like, what are you talking about? But he then asks, like, is that a good or a bad thing? And he then asks, like, are you getting nervous because it's getting closer to the end? And she then says, like, I just don't know what to say. Do you really think that it's going to work? And she's sitting there crying. He says, I wouldn't be here having these conversations with you if I didn't think so. So he then says, like, yesterday, you literally told me that you could see yourself being with me and that you loved me and that you could see yourself loving me. And I better not make you say it first, all this type of stuff. And I was coming in here with that on my mind. And I told you that I was all in on you. He did. He absolutely did. And she was like, you're right. But I just think that there's more to it. I said, what? What? And he was like, I mean, I'm not dumb. I know it's your other connection. And she was like, I mean, I don't know. He tells her, like, you're a strong, badass woman. You'll be a great wife. Whoever gets to experience it is blessed. I pray that it's me. But either way, I know I'm going to be straight, knowing that you'll be good. I said, you too good for her, Brendan. Like, you too good for her. But she then starts talking about how she wanted more from him. I said, what more did you want from him? For him to just tell you that he loves you whenever he didn't? You're okay with somebody love bombing you, which is why you jumped to saying that you was in love with Nick when he said it to you, not realizing that he love bombed you. Brendan took it the right way. He didn't just throw it on you to lock you in. He could have easily did that, but he didn't. But he then says that if it's somebody else, just say it. And she was like, I don't know if I'm self-sabotaging myself. You are, because you're so desperate. You're letting your desperation blind you from something that could be good for you. Like, that's crazy to me. But he then tells her that he wishes her nothing but the best and he'll be praying for her, and they finish that conversation. We then get to these two next scenes. Casey and Patrick, we're going to breeze through it because it's a bunch of bullshit. He proposes to her and he tells her that there was no other girl that he would have proposed to in that house or in them pods. I said, you fucking liar. Because you was about to do it with Anna, but she left before you got the chance to do it. I said, same thing I said with Annie, same thing applies with him. When Casey do him foul and dirty, I ain't got nothing to say. Desperation is crazy. But he proposes, she accepts. Brendan and Annie, they have one final conversation. And he's like, I got to fill you in on us, really. And he was like, because he had found out that Nick was her other option. He knows Nick ain't shit. But he then says, like, I was coming into this date last night to pretty much let you know that I love you. And I know that you have Nick. And it pains me because I never saw it coming. And respectfully, it's me. Like, you need to choose me. You don't need to choose him. I can give you that life that you need. He ain't lying. He's trying to save her, but she don't want to be saved. But he was like, if I didn't tell you this, I would regret it for the rest of my life. He then says, I knew it was you. She said, what am I supposed to do? Cut the shit off with Nick. That's what you're supposed to do. But he was like, be with me. That's what you need to do. He's like, it's always been clear, and it has. To me, it has. I told y'all in the first couple of recaps, her best connection was with Brendan. Like her best genuine one was with him. But he's begging her to think about it, and she's crying. That's how we ended this episode. I had to get this out for y'all. 5 and 6, I'm gonna try and get that out at least by the end of tonight, so we can be on track for 7, 8, 9 tomorrow. This episode got me hyped, and I know it's about to get even worse. But if you haven't already, give me that. Y'all killed it on the last one. Get down there in the comments, subscribe, share the video. Y'all know it helps so much with pushing the video out. But I will see y'all later on today. Peace.